Welcome to the last video in this module. Next up will be the test. So we've talked about what semiotic and symbolism is, what it means, who founded the actual study of it, um, the types of symbols. We've talked about the history of the human race, how we got to where we are today through communication and all the technology and inventions that have happened. So today we're going to talk about how we each have become a symbol loving person. So when you're born, you're the star of your life. You are, in fact, the center of the universe. You're a rock star on the stage of your life. When you see something new, it's just not new to you. You have discovered it. The thing had not existed before you laid eyes on it. Well, anyway, that's the way it feels, isn't it? But as we grow up and mature and get a better sense of context, except for those news guys, everything's the first time, the worst time, the biggest time. So let's talk about when you were growing up. What's your earliest memory? Seriously, this is your participation moment. In the appropriate place in Canvas, tell me about your earliest memory, where you were, what you did, who was with you. Keep it to a couple of paragraphs. I don't want to have to read long essays, but just kind of get to the point on that. So please turn that in for 5 points. Remember, you've got to be sure to work on your participation grade. I'm going to tell you about my earliest memory. It was a little traumatic. Now, just imagine I was laying in the dark on my back, and I had a pillow on either side of me, crowding me in so that I couldn't roll over. And I was crying like there was no tomorrow. I don't mean just a few tears slipping down my face. I'm talking about out loud boo-hooing. So, having had that memory in my head, I've deducted that I was probably around 12 months old because of who was there and where I was and all that sort of thing. I was in my aunt and uncle's house. So I could see into the other room where my mom and my dad, my uncle and my aunt were sitting on the couch in the living room having a really normal conversation and ignoring me as if I didn't exist. I could see their eyes. I know they saw me. It made me so mad. The madder I got, the more I cried. The more I cried, the more the tears were flooding my ears. I, to this day, still hate water in my ears because of that memory. And I sleep on my stomach. So, why am I telling you about my childhood? What does this have to do with semiology? Well, it's really simple. Each of us go through a similar, easy for me to say, chain of events that's very similar to the entire human history. Early on, we communicate with grunts and screams. We're not educated. We're not educated to communicate in any way. So at 1 month, a baby is a newborn without any communication training. So at 1 month, babies prefer human faces to other shapes, and they turn to familiar sounds and voices. At month 2, they can track objects with their eyes and begin to make other sounds in addition to the grunts and cries, kind of like vowel noises, like A, I, O, U. I know you've heard babies say that. Around month 6, they can start mimicking two-syllable words, maybe a da or something like that, which makes everybody so excited. Oh my goodness, he said daddy. Then at month 9, they can recognize their own image in a mirror. They start being aware of themselves. At month 11, 12, they begin to actually, convincingly saying mama or daddy or dada consistently. And they'll shake their head no. Like if they don't want something, like if you're trying to feed them carrots, they're shaking their head no. My daughter she would actually say not. Instead of no, it was not. Like, I'm not going to put on my coat, but she would just say not. Anyway, um, about that time, they also start walking, and you're chasing after them for the rest of your life. And whenever they start running, they're learning about the world. That's what we did too. We started learning about the world. So our education system is kind of like learning the systems of semiotics. There's sounds, there's smells, and then there's the index of grades. So, just when you were beginning your long journey of education, before you went to school, in preschool, pre-K, first grade, the materials that really captivated you and captivated me, I should be saying me because I am totally, uh, this is my circumstance. Images that entertained me were friendly animals, talking rabbits, fluffy kittens. You don't start out wanting to see calculus equations, the periodic table. You want to see what you see. You have stuffed animals. You want to see stuffed animals interacting with other stuffed animals. Just like the caveman, you were drawn to the familiar. Some of us keep that love for images on our top shelf, like I did. Others find more complex ways to express themselves, but we all still respond to images. And research has shown that if you have literacy props and tools and different kinds of images, that children will learn written language much faster. So it's a good thing to have storybooks. So, how did I become interested in semiotics? Well, it's kind of a long story. I'm a visual learner. I dream in images. I think in images. A thing is not real to me until I can see it, even if it's just an image that I've created in my brain that I rotate it and decide how I can put this thing together. So it stands to reason that I became a visual artist, a graphic artist. My expression, my language are images. So when I create an illustration, a logo, or a pottery piece, I'm putting a thing into the world that had lived inside of my head. I could see this before it ever got on paper or into clay. I have an entire universe, a search engine in my head that consists of images I've encountered along the way. Images just speak to me. So one day, it was very clear that the image search engine in my head was uniquely my own. And everybody has their uniquely own search engine in their head. I'm not unusual, but the search engine is in my head is uniquely mine, forged from my experiences, my environment, and my education. So I was in a classroom one day with a group of girls who were immersed in agriculture. That was their thing. They had been in agriculture since birth. In utero, they were in agriculture. So they were studying communication, and they were truly miffed that consumers of the products that their family sold, the cotton, the meat, the horses, the everything farm related, they they were really unhappy that the consumers of the products thought that all barns are red, all cows are black and white spots, and that all farmers wore straw hats. And didn't really the consumers weren't responding to the real life images on the farm because that was a pastoral image. That was not the real image. They wanted consumers to be so completely educated, which is not a bad thing. But I sat there and I listened, and I realized that I'm one of their consumers. That's the way I see it. Yeah, I grew up in a small agricultural community. There were no red barns in my hometown. They were all metal buildings. And I've seen a Hereford cow or two, and I know they're not black and white. Plus, no one I knew at home wore a straw hat that was all ragged like they were talking about. So where did my images come from? I love the picturesque farm scenes, and that's what I want on my milk carton. Well, it really bugged me. So I started Googling my mind with the images, trying to figure out where those pastoral views came from. I had already had it dawned on me that I already had my visual vocabulary intact before formal, meaning elementary school, education got a hold of me. My mom is an avid reader and taught me to be the same. I had access to books while in utero. I love books. When I was small, before I went to school, I devoured little golden books, Hans Christian Andersen books, and the list goes on. Mother Goose, all of those books. Those beautifully illustrated books taught me how the world should look way before I encountered my first Hereford cow. Long story short, we want what we've seen. If we see children's books first, why is it a surprise that those images are what we desire? Books like A Day on the Farm, Tommy's Wonderful Ride, Red Barns, Chickens, Cows, Black and White Spotted Cows. Oh my gosh. In advertising, it's about the consumers. It's not about us. We are trying to tap into their visual vocabulary. So that's it for the lectures. Up next is a test over Module 1. Look for it in Canvas, and then next time I will be talking to you about our next module. See you then.